Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Welcome to Slumpbuster Fantasy Football Podcast, episode 13, recording here on Sunday, November 17th, 2019. Find us on all streaming platforms. On today's episode, Aris breaks down NFL Week 11. We have 3 weeks, people, before those fantasy football playoffs hit. Let's subscribe, let's listen, let's bust that slump together. Without further ado, welcome to our show.
What's up, guys? We're back for another installation of the Slumpbuster Fantasy Football Podcast with yours truly, Aris Blakeney. What's up, guys? Hopefully everybody had a good week. I'm shaping up to have a really good week. I'm hopefully going to go 3-0 in all 3 of my fantasy leagues. This will be the first time since I beat Andre in like week 4 or something like that. So it's looking really good. It's all going to come down to Monday night, and you guessed it, my Chargers. Are they going to lift me up into the promised land where I go 3-0 in fantasy leagues and my Chargers win on Monday night? Or am I going to be heartbroken where I lose all 3 of my leagues and the Chargers lose? It's one of those things where it's like, dude, I hate these. I hate fantasy football. I hate NFL. I hate the Chargers, but I love the NFL. I love fantasy football. And God damn it, I love the Chargers. It's my team, whether they go to London, which they're not. They go back to LA, or back to San Diego. There's some rumors out there that Jeff Bezos is looking for a team, and he might want to base it out of San Diego. So, Spanos, sell the damn team. But I mean, I would absolutely love for them to go back to San Diego, go back to my hometown. It would be awesome. We could be the San Diego Chargers. Hell, ESPN had on a couple of their promotions Kansas City Chiefs versus the San Diego Chargers. Not the LA Chargers, the San Diego. They're freaking San Diego. They just need to go back. But you know what? One last thing, because she would kill me if I didn't state anything. Yes, this week I am playing my mother again in my family league. We are currently sitting at my team 140.94. Her team 146.54. It all comes down to tomorrow night. She has Melvin Gordon, and I have Keenan Allen and Travis Kelce. And the only thing that it's pissing me off is we made a trade. We've made a couple trades. I gave her Melvin Gordon. I gave her Mark Ingram, who popped off today. And I gave her Marvin Jones, who popped off today. In return, I got – who did I get from my mom again? I got Damian Williams, Philip Lindsay, and I got Tyler Lockett. So if I lose because of the 3 players that I gave her, I'm going to be so bad. But there, I talked about it, Mom. Happy you made the podcast again. Fortunately, I'm not going to have you call in and say, oh, you – no. I'm going to get my revenge from you beating me and everybody on this freaking podcast team making fun of me for losing to you, even though I was the second highest scoring team in that league that week. So that's enough about all that. Let's get into these games. Let's break down Thursday night, the Thursday night UFC match or WWE match, not the football game, because the football game was terrible. Rudolph, 221, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions. I mean, maybe he deserved to get hit in the head with a helmet because he was terrible. But I will ask, are we totally sure that Myles Garrett wasn't just helping Rudolph get the helmet back on his head? Like, he hit him with that bottom part of the helmet. We never know if he was just trying to put it back on his head, because, I mean, he might have. Rudolph did not get suspended, but I do see a fine. That's not really going to affect fantasy purposes. He's not too good for fantasy purposes, though. They do get Cincy next week, but early projections, I'm going to have Cincinnati winning this game against Pittsburgh just because Connor is going to be out, re-aggravated that shoulder injury. Juju's probably going to be out with a concussion. Johnson, their third-string receiver, got hit in the side of the head. He's bleeding from his ear. There's no reports yet on these guys, but early indications is they're probably going to be out of the game. They did have that Thursday night game is a mini bye, so they could come back, but I would not play Connor. And Juju, you're probably not relying on him anyway, so I would probably sit both of those guys. Rudolph, I would stay away. In the backfield for Pittsburgh, you have Samuels and Edmonds. Samuels is probably the better play, but even then, it's a desperation play. If you absolutely have to, I'd probably stay away from them. He's gonna be a running back 3. I probably don't even see him getting to that RB2. He would be a touchdown dependent RB2 at that point, because heck, he had 5 carries for 26 yards and 5 catches for 19 yards. If you don't have that touchdown, so that touchdown saved the day for him. Volume's not there because he's splitting it 3 ways with the other backs. So he's going to be a touchdown-dependent RB2, but he's going to be slotted in that RB3, low-end RB3 for me. On the Cleveland side, they do get an easy matchup next week, so I can see most of these guys playing again. Baker, 193, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, but he did vulture a touchdown from Nick Chubb. 1 carry, 1 yard, 1 touchdown for him. I would probably play him next week against Miami. They're no longer tanking for Tua because Tua dislocated his hip. Hopefully speedy recovery to him. But I probably wouldn't draft a quarterback coming off a dislocated hip. They're also describing this injury as the one that ended Bo Jackson's career. So only time will tell with that. Nick Chubb. The good thing is Kareem Hunt isn't necessarily eating into his work. He did have 27 carries for 92 yards. He's more eating into the third down back. Chubb last year did have a lot of third down work. This year he has not, though. So that's probably where Kareem Hunt's going to be living for the rest of the season, in that third down back. He'll probably be mid-range RB3 to a mid-range RB2, just depending on game flow for him. If they get real behind, I would probably see a lot more Kareem Hunt. If they're ahead, you're going to see a lot more Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb, like I said, 27 carries for 92 yards. Kareem Hunt, 6 carries, 12 yards, 6 catches, 44 yards. OBJ, 4 catches for 60 yards. Unfortunately, he did have a touchdown reversed by replay. Fantasy owners weren't liking that. And that's where the Baker Mayfield 1 yard, 1 carry, 1 touchdown run came from. And then Jarvis Landry, 4 catches, 43 yards, and a touchdown. They're both going to be slotted right around that low-end receiver 2, unfortunately. Sorry, OBJ fans. Sorry, Browns fans. It's just the honest truth with them. Next game was probably my favorite game of the week because of something that happened. We'll talk about here in just a second. But it is the return of Nick Foles. So Jacksonville went to Indianapolis. They lost pretty handily. Indianapolis won this one wire to wire. Jacksonville 13, Indianapolis 33. Jacksonville does have a tough matchup next week in Tennessee. Indianapolis has a middle-of-the-road matchup in Houston. Houston just got the doors beaten off them by Baltimore, so we'll see, if they can do that as well. Baltimore has a little bit more explosive offense, but I can see most of these guys popping off for Indianapolis as well next week. Foles came out in his return, 296 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Pretty decent day. He's going to be a decent streamer going forward, right around that QB2 range. Leonard Fournette, if you did not have him in a PPR league, laid a duck. He had 8 carries for 23 yards. Saved his day PPR-wise with 7 catches for 34 yards. So if you didn't have him in PPR, you only got 5 points out of him as probably your number 1 back, or hopefully at this point of the year, your number 2 back. It just was not a good day for him. They pretty much abandoned the run because they got so far behind. But my guy, DJ Chark, I was expecting him to take a step back, but he led the team in targets, catches, receptions and touchdowns. So that's a really good sign. It looks like there's not going to be any fall off from him. 8 catches, 104 yards, 2 touchdowns. Let's go. He blew up on my fantasy team, so I love this guy. I've been high on him all year. A lot of people would say trade him away, but I was like, nope, you got to keep this guy. I even tried to trade for him in one of my leagues where somebody snagged him up before I could. Chris Conley, he's going to, deeper leagues, he's going to be hit or miss. But if you're in a deeper league, he's a really good option. 6 catches, 58 yards. He does have potential to blow up and, score 1 or 2 touchdowns. And then Dede Westbrook, I thought he was going to take a bigger step up. Unfortunately, 4 catches for 32 yards. I'd probably leave him on the waiver wire. But if you do have him, he's probably going to be, wide receiver 4, wide receiver 3 going forward. And then on the Indianapolis side, Brissett, 148, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 2 carries, 12 yards, and a rushing touchdown. Brissett's going to be the same as Foles. He's going to be a decent streaming option. QB2, he's can have games where he'll jump up into that QB1, but he's going to be probably QB2 the remaining of the year, especially, streamer or injury replacement, because next week is going to be the last week for buys. So if you're streaming quarterbacks, a lot of people like to do that. He'll be a good option. Foles will be a good option. Pretty much everybody's off of bye week, so you don't have to worry about those anymore after next week. Marlon Mack, 14 carries, 109 yards, and a touchdown. The unfortunate part is he broke his hand, so he's probably out for the remainder of the regular season for us, maybe even into the championship game. He'll have an opportunity to come back. So I would just wait to see what they do with him. If they throw him on IR, you can just drop him and get rid of him. But if you're in a place to, you can afford to have somebody on your team hold up a spot, I'd probably keep him, but he's probably going to be, out for the remainder of the year. Like I said, just make sure you're keeping an eye on what the team does with him. In his place, though, which kind of stinks because the backup came in and blew up. Jonathan Williams, 13 carries, 116 yards, no touchdowns, 1 catch for 31 yards, and no touchdowns. So Marlon Mack, 14 carries, 109 yards. His backup came in 13 carries, 116 yards. You'd have loved to see that from Marlon Mack, but it's a good sign from his backup that his backup can actually come in, handle everything, and perform. He's going to be the number 1 waiver priority for, going forward. If you have any fab bucks left, I'd probably throw whatever you have. If you have $100 left or $1,000 or whatever, hey, good for you. You haven't used it all, but I haven't used it all at this point. But I'd probably throw, at least 75% of what you have left at this guy, if not all of it, because he's going to be the number 1 waiver pickup. Nyheim Hines is probably going to be the pass catching back, especially if Jordan Wilkins doesn't return. So Jonathan Williams will probably be the first and second down back. Hines is going to be the third down back, or Watkins or Wilkins is going to be that third down back. But Jonathan Williams will probably get the majority of the carries. Hines did have a touchdown today, 3 carries, 11 yards, 1 touchdown, added 3 catches for 24 yards. Pascal, I was telling a lot of people to start him. I'm sorry, that's just fantasy for you. 2 catches for 17 yards. Ebron, 4 catches for 27 yards. And then here's why this game was fun as hell for me to watch. Quentin Nelson, 1 carry, unfortunately no yards, no touchdowns. He is the left guard, all-pro left guard. On the field, though, his carry, he called the touchdown. So for 5 minutes, this man had a touchdown while they reviewed it. And they did the best touchdown celebration of the year. This man did a keg stand off of another lineman's back. It was awesome. I'm pretty sure everybody's seen it, but I am all here for big man touchdowns. Those big guys do a lot of work in the trenches. They need love too. If you can get a big man a touchdown, get a big man a touchdown. It just makes the game a lot more fun to watch. And, the offensive linemen love it. you can see it whenever they score. They go crazy. And now we'll go on to the next game where tanking for Tua is no more. So I thought they might actually win this game. It looked at one point that they might have won it. Buffalo 37, Miami 20. Hell, it was a pretty fun game. They went to this one a lot on red zone. Josh Allen, 256, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 7 carries, 56 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, Allen right now is probably at that very, very bottom of a QB1, even into a mid QB1. But he is, for fantasy purposes, legit. Devin Singletary, 15 carries, 75 yards, added 1 catch for 4 yards. He's pretty much taken over as the starting back and probably the back to own. Gore, 11 carries, 27 yards, 1 catch for 18 yards. Gore, on a positive note for him, because game-wise he's not really adding much except for short yardage. He is coming up on being number 3 all-time in rushing yards. So I'm pushing for him for that because he's definitely a Hall of Famer. If you finish your career on 3rd all-time in rushing, I mean, heck, Darren Sproles is going to be, in my book, a Hall of Famer. He's 5th all-time in all-purpose yards. So, I mean, you got to put the guy in. John Brown, 9 catches, 137 yards, 2 touchdowns. Buffalo does get Denver next week. Denver just got burnt by Stephon Diggs. Now, Brown is nowhere near as good as Diggs is, but I mean, I might start next week. He might be a sneaky. I mean, he'll get Chris Harris the whole game, so he's not going to have 9 catches. Probably have maybe 4 or 5. But I mean, he's going to be, a low floor but a super high ceiling wide receiver 3. Cole Beasley, 4 catches, 38 yards. He'll probably be a wide receiver 4. But him and Brown are the go-to guys for Allen. And then Dawson Knox, 2 catches, 32 yards, and a touchdown. Tight end position is just so hit or miss where he might be a last-ditch desperation stream going forward, although Denver does have a pretty good defense. On the Miami side, Fitzmagic, 323 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Keelan Ballage, this is pretty funny, 9 carries, 9 yards, 1 touchdown. So he just got 1 yard every time he touched the ball. Jakeem Grant, 1 carry, 7 yards, 1 touchdown, added 3 catches for 32 yards, but did have a kickoff return for a touchdown. Probably wouldn't play either of those. I'd stay away from him. The only person decent enough on this team to even put in your flex position would be Parker, 7 catches, 135 yards. I'd probably slot him in at a mid-range wide receiver 3 with a higher ceiling. I mean, hell, Fitzpatrick does have to throw to somebody, so he's probably mid wide receiver 3 to a low wide receiver 2. And then the award of most surprising game goes to Houston-Baltimore. Houston 7, Baltimore 41. We were expecting a shootout from this game, but unfortunately we did not get it. We got a one-sided affair. The one thing that will probably come out of this more than the game speak is the no call on DeAndre Hopkins, where he got tackled before the ball got there. No pass interference called on the field. Coach threw the challenge flag. They went to review it, and they still upheld it, which was completely absurd. This man was tackled before the ball got there. Should have been 1st and goal from the 1-yard line because it happened in the end zone. And I am salty because it was terrible, even though I had Baltimore's defense, so I benefited from it. It's just I like to see games called fairly. There was the Chargers game against Oakland. Philip Rivers got smacked in the head. Every time a quarterback get barely even tapped, just a little love tap on the head. They call it roughing the passer. Philip Rivers, I mean, this boy got smacked, and they didn't call anything. So the officiating this year is terrible. They need to fix it. It's ruining games. It's ruining fantasy days for people. They need to fix it. It's just so freaking annoying, man. But we'll get into the game now. Deshaun Watson, 169, no touchdowns, one turnover or one interception, added 3 carries for 12 yards. He was just under pressure all day. They couldn't do anything. Hyde, 9 carries, 65 yards, and a touchdown. Duke Johnson, 6 carries for 40 yards, 2 catches for 4 yards. DeAndre Hopkins is still not producing like we want him to. 7 catches for 80 yards. So if you have him in a standard league, he's probably your third receiver on your team at this point, production-wise. But if he's in a PPR league, he's still getting, 7, 8 catches a game, so 10 catches a game. He's producing well for you in a PPR league. Standard league, unfortunately, not so much. And then Kenny Stills, 4 catches for 27 yards. I put Kenny Stills in here because they are getting Will Fuller back next week. He was good enough to go this week, but they have a division matchup next week in Indianapolis. So they're gonna want him healthy for that. They didn't want to suffer any setbacks because that game is going to be for the lead in the division. That's a more important game to them, so they're keeping him. So Stills is going to drop back from the second option to a third option. So he's going to be bumped down into that wide receiver 4. Will Fuller is going to come back and slot in as a low floor wide receiver 3 to a high floor wide receiver or high ceiling wide receiver 1. Hell, he had 216 yards and 2 touchdowns last time, or a couple games prior to before he got hurt. So he's going to be a super boomer bust, but he's going to slide in as the number 2 option behind DeAndre Hopkins. On the Baltimore side, Lamar Jackson, 222 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, added 9 carries for 86 yards. So you like to see that he's actually being able to throw the ball a little bit better. Granted, this was a middle-of-the-road defense. He still hasn't produced against a top-end defense, but he's always going to have those rush numbers to assist with his days. So wide receiver or quarterback 1, Deshaun Watson, quarterback 1 going forward. Gus Edwards is probably going to be one of the top handcuffs with the likes of Tony Pollard and Alexander Mattison. He had 8 carries for 112 yards and a touchdown. He's still getting some work. It's not enough to rely on fantasy-wise just yet because Mark Ingram is still the number 1 back there. 13 carries, 48 yards, no touchdowns, but he did add 3 catches for 37 yards and 2 touchdowns. So unfortunately, he's still getting his work cut by Jackson, by Edwards, by Hill, but he's still going to be a running back 2. He still can produce for you. It's just we wish he would stop losing work to those guys, but it's just how it is. Mark Andrews, 4 catches, 75 yards, and a touchdown. And then Hollywood Brown, I saw a lot of people trying to play him. 2 catches for 23 yards. He's going to be a low-floor, high-ceiling guy again. I'm going to probably slot him in as a wide receiver 4. Andrews, definitely tight end 1. Ingram, RB2. So just going forward for those guys. Baltimore does have a decent matchup in the Rams. Rams are hit or miss, so I'd probably start Ingram, Andrews, and Jackson, and then just depending on who you have, go forward with that. We will have our rankings out on Tuesday or Wednesday of this coming week as well. And the team that's going to get the number 1 pick, Cincinnati. They lost again. They were the first team mathematically eliminated from the playoffs this year, so there's that for them, I guess. Cincinnati 10, Oakland 17. Finley, he's still figuring it out. He's only in his second start. 115 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception, added 3 carries for 47 yards. He's going to be a quarterback 3. Why bother with this guy? Joe Mixon played in front of 75 of his family and friends, so congratulations to him. He actually scored. 15 carries, 86 yards, and a touchdown, added 1 catch for 17 yards. He's I'm going to slot him in as a running back 3. He's had like 2 good games this year, so bye week and injury replacement guy. I'd keep him on your team for those instances, because if you drop him, somebody will pick him up. Yeah, just I wouldn't mess with him. Alden Tate, 4 catches, 56 yards. The only reason why I put him on here, he did leave the game on a stretcher, so hopefully he's okay. We don't ever want to see somebody get hurt like that, especially as a former player. I remember having to play after somebody snapped their leg in half, and it was a bit rough trying to start back up after that. It was like, ooh, can I put all my weight on this leg? Is my leg going to snap like that? So it's just one of those things, hopefully speedy recovery to him. We'll go ahead and move on. Hopefully they do get AJ Green back. That'll probably help out their year. But at this point, if I was AJ Green, why even play? You're going to be a free agent next year. On the Oakland side, Derek Carr, 292, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, added 5 carries for 1 yard and a touchdown. So go him. Josh Jacobs, 23 yards, 23 carries, 112 yards, no touchdown, 3 catches for 12 yards. So Carr is going to be QB2. Jacobs is going to be fringe RB1, RB2. He's going to be right in that middle of the pack, right around 12 to 19 range. Depending on matchups, he might even be higher than that. Tyrell Williams finally did not have 3 catches this game. You guessed it, he had 4. 4 catches for 82 yards, no touchdown again. That touchdown regression is continuing. Wide receiver 3, probably just because, he's going to get you 3 catches, 4 catches for about 70 yards. So PPR-wise, good. Standard-wise, Darren Waller, 5 catches, 78 yards. He's still going to be a tight end number 1 going forward. And then Hunter Renfrow in deeper leagues, and then, injury replacement. He might be somebody to look at. He has, some decent games putting together. It looks like they're starting to get him more involved in the passing game. 5 catches for 66 yards. I would probably just star him. He's not owned in any leagues. I think he's only owned in 10% of leagues. So I'd probably just star him, put him on your watch list, give it one more game. They do have a decent matchup in the Jets next week. So, do what you want with him. He's probably still a wide receiver 4 right now, but he's slowly working his way up in the wide receiver rankings just because he's starting to get more and more involved in the game plan for that. Next, I'm going to issue a challenge to everybody. Why don't you guys send us your best Dak challenge, and we'll post a couple of those on the Instagram page. Let's just see if we can get some people out there doing the Dak. Let's try to have some fun. Let's get some listener involvement going on, because the next thing we're going to talk about is those Cowboys. Zeke scored and then did the Dak. That's what we're calling it. He did the Dak as his touchdown celebration. Dallas won this one 35-27. News came out that Stafford's probably going to be out for at least 6 games. For fantasy purposes, you could drop him, and then it's going to be Driscoll taking over from here on out. So everybody's kind of going to take a step down on the Detroit side. But Dak, 444 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, added 6 carries for 18 yards. He's going to be right there, mid to low QB1. As of right now, he's leading the league in passing yards until tomorrow night when Philip Rivers takes over. Because right now Philip Rivers is leading the league in passing yards. Zeke, like I said, he did score twice. Zeke had 16 carries, 45 yards, and a touchdown, added 2 catches for 28 yards and a touchdown. So his yardage total is not that good these last couple weeks, but he did score this week. Only bad part is they get the Patriots next week, and the Patriots love to take away your best threat. So they're going to take away Zeke. They're going to make Dak beat them. So see how that goes. Dak probably going to have a couple interceptions next week. So I'd probably slot everybody down one option next week against the Patriots. Tony Pollard, they're starting to get him more involved. I think maybe they're trying to keep Zeke fresh for the playoff push. Added 2 carries for 12 yards, 4 catches, 44 yards, and a touchdown. He was in for a handful of other snaps where he was just decoy or was a passing play. So it looks like they're starting to get Pollard a little bit more involved. So he's going to be one of the top handcuffs. Gallup, 9 catches, 148 yards, no touchdown. Cobb, 4 catches, 115 yards, and a touchdown. Amari Cooper, 3 catches, 38 yards. Amari Cooper's probably still in that wide receiver 1 conversation. Next week, probably not. He's going to be Stephon Gilmore is going to be shadowing him. So call me crazy, I might actually sit him next week and play one of these other guys. Hopefully they can get open. They're both Cobb's going to be a wide receiver 4. He's starting to get the hang of this offense. And then Gallup probably going to be wide receiver 3. But Amari Cooper, I'd probably sit next week. Dak, I'd probably still play, but hopefully have some other options to help cover Zeke, taking a hit. On the Detroit side, Driscoll, 209 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, looking a little bit better in the offense because he did add 8 carries for 51 yards and another touchdown. Danny Amendola, 4 catches, 47 yards. Galladay, 1 catch for 34 yards. And then Marvin Jones, 4 catches, 43 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So it might actually look like Jones is the guy to kind of start on here because Galladay has only had 2 catches in the last 2 games. Jones has fared a lot better. So I'd maybe flip the 2. Galladay's generally a wide receiver 1. Jones a wide receiver 2. I might flop those 2 guys. Jones put him in as a wide receiver 1. Galladay's a wide receiver 2. And then the interesting part in this backfield is they activated a running back off of their practice squad on Saturday. He led the team in carries, rushing yards, and touchdowns. So he had 14 carries, 55 yards, and a touchdown, and that is Bo Scarborough. He was that really good back at Alabama. He couldn't catch on for Dallas because they have Zeke. So now he's getting a chance to play in Detroit. I mean, he's not going to be a bad waiver wire. The only problem is they don't really know what they're doing in this backfield just yet. So we'll talk about him more in the waiver wire ads. But I might slot him in as a running back 2, running back 3 option going forward. Next, we got Denver at Minnesota. This was a tale of 2 halves. Denver went into halftime 20-0, and then they ended up losing 23-27. Minnesota's on a bye, so that's good for all those guys trying to get healthy, get back in. But I mean, is Denver probably the most heartbroken team this year? They've lost more games on last-second efforts than anybody else. I mean, hell, they had like 3 weeks in a row where they went and scored the game-winning touchdown and then let up a game-winning field goal with like 2 seconds left in the game. This one, they just barely missed Noah Fant in the corner of the end zone to win the game with time expiring, down 4 points. So, I mean, Denver, they're like 4 plays away from being undefeated right now. I actually hate them, so let's not laugh about that. All right. Brandon Allen, 240 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, added 3 carries for 18 yards. He's going to be a QB3. Just don't even worry about him going forward. Backfield-wise, they're coming out with reports saying that they're going to be leaning on Philip Lindsay a little bit more than Royce Freeman. Lindsay had 16 carries, 67 yards, no touchdowns, but added 2 catches for 8 yards. Freeman, 8 carries, 31 yards, 1 catch for 14 yards. Lindsay's probably going to be a low-end RB2. Freeman's going to be a low-end RB3. Cortland Sutton is going to be a wide receiver 1. 5 catches, 113 yards. He did have a beautiful pass as well. Noah Fant, I'd probably slot him at a low-end tight end 1, high-end tight end 2. 4 catches for 60 yards. And then on the Viking side, Cousins, 319 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, added 2 carries for 1 yard. Since week 5, he has been a QB1, and I don't see that changing anytime soon, although he does have the bye next week. Dalvin Cook salvaged his day with a touchdown. He had 11 carries for 26 yards, 1 touchdown, added 5 catches for 31 yards. But since they were so behind at the beginning of the game, they just abandoned the run altogether. Diggs, had a hell of a day, 5 catches, 121 yards, and a touchdown. With Thielen coming back after the bye, I could see him taking a slight step back, but he's still going to be a high-end wide receiver 2, and then Thielen after the bye will be a wide receiver 1. And then Rudolph, I might start looking to stream. He's had 2 decent games put together that are looking like they're getting him a little bit more involved. 5 catches, 67 yards, and a touchdown. Had 2 touchdowns last week. So it looks like they're actually starting to get back to using him in the passing game. So he might be a streamer. Right now I have him slotted at a mid-range tight end 2. Next, we got New Orleans bouncing back from that terrible game against Atlanta. They went to Tampa Bay and just pretty much handed Tampa Bay. They handled them all game long. There was nothing really ever in doubt with this game. 34-17 New Orleans. Breeze, 228 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Kamara, 13 carries, 75 yards, but added 10 catches for 47 yards. He's still going to be an RB1. Latavius Murray looks like he's slotted into that Mark Ingram role fully now. 10 carries, 27 yards, added 2 catches for 5 yards. He's going to be a low-end RB2 with potential to be a RB1 weekly. Just because if you remember a couple years ago when Mark Ingram was in this role, Mark Ingram, he performed really well fantasy-wise as well. I think they were almost both RB1s 2 years ago. So, the track is there for him to perform. Thomas, the number 1 receiver in fantasy, is not changing anytime soon. 8 catches, 114 yards, and a touchdown. And then Cook as well. Same with Rudolph. He's had a couple good games in a row now. 2 catches, 33 yards, and a touchdown. I might stream him. They're looking for him in the red zone. And then on the Tampa Bay side, Winston, 313 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, added 2 carries for 33 yards. Pretty much what you're going to get out of him. I have him slotted as a quarterback 2. Personally, I would stay away from him just because he's so prone to throwing turnovers. And then you have Ronald Jones, 4 carries, 13 yards, 2 catches for 1 yard. This backfield is just Peyton Barber got the touchdown this time. Ronald Jones got the touchdown last week. Next week, it'll probably be Ronald Jones again scoring a touchdown. I have them both slotted as running back 3s. They're just super inconsistent. Their floor is really low, and their ceiling is not very high either. Their ceiling is probably a low-end RB2. So, they're very inconsistent. I'd try to stay away from them if you can. Mike Evans, still going to be a low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2. 4 catches, 69 yards, and then Godwin is still going to be in that wide receiver 1 category. 3 catches, 47 yards, and a touchdown. Next game was, it was a pretty terrible game. New York Jets handed the Washington Redskins another loss, 34-17. Darnold had a pretty good game, no longer seeing ghosts. 293 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's going to be a low-end Probably a low mid-range QB2. Le'Veon Bell, unfortunately, his yardage total is still very low. He did score, so it did, save his day. But 18 carries, 59 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 catches for 33 yards. It's probably a low-end RB2 at this point. I mean, his yardage total is just trash. If he doesn't score, he's, scoring you 7, 8, 9 points a week. It's decent for a flex, but for your number one back where you drafted him, it's not that good. I've seen him traded in a lot of leagues, so you're probably already got rid of him, or if you did trade for him, there's more of a bye week filler, injury replacement, maybe your third running back. So that's probably where he's going to slot in. Robbie Anderson did have a nice game. They haven't really been on at the same page like they used to be, him and Sam Darnold. He had 1 catch for 6 yards and a touchdown. I mean, he's still getting like 10 to 15 yards a target for air yards, so that's a plus, but I'd probably just drop him. He's going to be a wide receiver 4. Jamison Crowder, 5 catches, 76 yards, and a touchdown. He's more of that low-end wide receiver 2, high-end wide receiver 3. PPR-wise, he's going to be even a top-tier wide receiver 2, just because he's going to be catching you a lot of passes. He's going to get those extra points. And then Griffin, their tight end, is slotting right into that Herndon role. Herndon is back on IR. So he's going to be a low-end tight end 1, 5 catches, 109 yards, and a touchdown. Wherever we had Herndon slotted in, it's going to be Griffin now. So just take out Herndon and slide in Griffin at that same spot. That's how we're going to do this going forward. Like I said, a low-end tight end 1. On the Washington side, there's hope for Washington. Haskins looked really good. 214 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, added 4 carries for 15 yards. Like I said, he looked comfortable. He looked good. So there's hope for Washington going forward. Adrian Peterson, 9 carries, 25 yards, 2 catches for 5 yards. It's going to be a low-end RB3. Geis is going to be mid-range RB3 to a mid-range RB2. They're not going to use this guy in a workhorse role for the rest of the year. Let me say that again. They are not going to use him in a workhorse role for the rest of the year. They are probably just getting his feet wet this year. He's had the rookie year. He was on IR all year from a torn ACL. He came back this year, re-injured that same knee. So they're gonna be patient with this guy, because if they can have Geis, McLaurin, and Haskins all healthy, all performing, they're gonna be in a really good position for years to come. So Geis is gonna be a decent flex option for you, but he's not gonna have that workhorse role. He's gonna probably have what he had this week: 7 carries for 24 yards. He had 1 catch for 45 yards and a touchdown. And he's going to be right around that 10 touch total going forward. So that's why I have him slotted in that, RB3 to RB2 range. McLaurin, he looked really good. He did have a big pass called back on penalty. He had 3 catches for 69 yards. Haskins is going to look for him. They have a really good rapport. They went to college together. They performed very well at college together. So they're comfortable with each other. Look for him to probably be the go-to guy going forward. Next, we have another surprising game from Atlanta. I don't know where this Atlanta team was, before their bye week, because after their bye week, they have been killing it. Atlanta won 29-3 against Carolina. Maybe it's just that, AFC or NFC South, they always play each other weird. But, I mean, it was Atlanta against Christian McCaffrey again, so there's still that. Matt Ryan, 311 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Hill, 15 carries, 30 yards, 1 catch for 8 yards. Hill's probably going to be a low-end RB2, high-end RB3 going forward. Ryan is still going to be a RB1. You're going to want Ryan and the Falcons to be down because that's where he performs fantasy-wise best for you. He is king of garbage time this year. Calvin Ridley, 8 catches, 143 yards, 1 touchdown. He's going to be a RB or wide receiver 2 now that Sanu is gone. Julio Jones is still going to be a wide receiver 1, but on the low end, 6 catches for 91 yards. On the Carolina Panthers side, Kyle Allen is regressing. He's on a roller coaster. He regressed this week. 325 yards, no touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and those interceptions were bad. He's essentially a rookie. It's his second year in the league, but it's his like 9th or 10th start, so he's still a rookie. He hasn't seen a lot of stuff, so maybe they were throwing weird, spy coverages, double coverages, stuff like that on him. So he's going to be a low, probably mid to low QB2. Christian McCaffrey, though, still the best player in fantasy. 14 carries, 70 yards, no touchdowns, unfortunately, but added 11 catches for 121 yards. So if he's PPR, he had 33 points for you. Standard, he still had a really good day for you. So if you sit him, why? This just shows he's matchup proof. DJ Moore, 8 catches, 95 yards. Samuels, 4 catches, 25 yards. Olsen, 5 catches, 57 yards. Olsen's going to be a tight end 2. DJ Moore will be wide receiver 2. Samuel, probably low end wide receiver 3. Next, we'll go into Juju's game, San Francisco and Arizona. I know a lot of people were really happy with the end of that game, and a lot of people were really pissed at the end of that game. We'll get into that in just a second. Kyler Murray, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 8 carries for 67 yards and a touchdown. He's starting to trend up to that QB1 position, but he's still going to be a QB2 because he's still on a roller coaster. At the beginning of the day, they came out with their depth chart. Kenyon Drake is now the starting back. David Johnson is a backup now. He had no carries. I think he was maybe in like 1 or 2 plays. He did not touch the ball. So they're going on their bye next week. I'd hold on to him. But once they come out of the bye, if there's another game of him not touching the ball, he's going to be droppable. But I would still hold off. Let's just see what they do. Maybe when they get Chase Edmonds back, they might throw him on IR. So let's just wait and see. But it looks like Drake actually fits the system a little bit better. So they might move on from David Johnson in the offseason. Drake, 16 carries, 67 yards, no touchdowns, but added 6 catches for 13 yards. So Drake's going to be a volume-based RB2 going forward. The volume is going to be there for him to perform. It's just on him if he performs or not. Christian Kirk followed up his awesome day last week with a pretty terrible week this week. 6 catches for 41 yards. He's going to be slotted in as a wide receiver 3. Same with Fitzgerald. He scored today, so 5 catches, 37 yards, and a touchdown. This touchdown brought him into second place all time for most touchdowns against a single franchise. He only follows Jerry Rice. So he has 19 touchdowns against San Francisco. He only trails Jerry Rice now. I think they said he had like 24 touchdowns against a single team, and I believe it was Arizona. On the San Francisco side, Jimmy G had a career day, 424 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Jimmy G is going to be a low-end QB1, high-end QB2 just because he's still a game manager. It's looking like he's turning into a actual game changer, but he's still kind of managing game going forward. Tevin Coleman, 16 carries, 14 yards, 3 catches for 48 yards. He's going to be a volume-based RB2. He did get stuffed twice on goal line carries, and then Jimmy G missed him on a would-have-been 4-yard touchdown catch. So he's still getting opportunities to score. He's still going to be the back to own in this backfield. Raheem Mostert, 6 carries for 13 yards, 2 catches for 14 yards. And then the vulture strikes again. Jeff Wilson Jr. was in on one play, and on that play, he caught one catch. He went for 25 yards and 1 touchdown. The one play he's in, he gets a touchdown. Tevin Coleman was in for 90% of the game and didn't score. So he kind of ruined my fantasy day. So I'm a little mad at him, but vulture strikes again. I just wish Spider-Man would come and take him away because I need Tevin Coleman to score, especially because I lost Connor and I lost Mac. So now Tevin Coleman is my only running back along with Jamal Williams. So I'll be on the waiver wire with all of you guys next week. Emmanuel Sanders, 3 catches for 33 yards. He did leave injured, so kind of monitor him going forward. If he does sit Deebo Samuel, I was telling a lot of you guys not to sit him or not to play him, and I'll say this right now. I am very sorry. But I thought Sanders was going to play. Sanders did not play, so Deebo Samuel benefited. If Sanders is out again, Samuels is going to benefit again. 8 catches, 134 yards. And then if Kittle sits again, I would play one of these two. Kyle Juszczyk is going to be a decent backup, decent flex option in your flex position. He's going to be a running back, but he had 7 catches for 63 yards, so they're using him more in that 20 to 20 range where those Kittle routes would be. And then Ross Dwelly in the red zone is getting all the Kittle work in the red zone. He had 4 catches for 14 yards and 2 touchdowns. So a combination of those two guys is filling in for Kittle. So if you're hurting at, running back or you're hurting at tight end, look for either Kyle Juszczyk or Dwelly. And then the last game we'll talk about is going to be the Super Bowl rematch. They were talking about this, like, we feel slighted by the Eagles. We're going to get them back. New England beat Philadelphia 17-10. Brady, 216 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. And the funny part is his touchdown got vultured by Julian Edelman. Julian Edelman, the Patriots lead the league in quarterbacks playing out of position. What do I mean by that? Mohamed Sanu and Julian Edelman were both quarterbacks in college, and now they're playing receiver. But Julian Edelman had 5 catches for 53 yards and then had 1 pass on a trick play that went for a touchdown. Sony Michel is, I'm going to say this and it's going to sound crazy. He's droppable. 10 carries, 33 yards, no touchdowns, 2 catches, 11 yards. He has not scored in 3 weeks, so I'm going to say he is droppable. The 2 backs I would like in this backfield for PPR purposes are going to be James White, 5 carries for 20 yards, 4 catches for 16 yards, and then Burkhead, 5 carries, 14 yards, 2 catches for 34 yards, where I still probably not play them. I have all 3 of these backs slotted in the RB3, RB4 range. And then Mohamed Sanu, 1 catch, 8 yards, or 1 carry for 8 yards, 2 catches for 4 yards. Really, the only receiver you can absolutely rely on is going to be Edelman. Sanu is going to be up and down. He's probably going to be a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2. Then Edelman's going to be a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1. On the Philly side, Carson Wentz, 214 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. He did have the game-winning touchdown dropped by none other than Nelson Aguilar. Yep, you guessed it. He sucks. He drops everything. He caught the ball 1 time today, and I was like, holy cow, he actually caught the ball. He didn't drop it. I heard a take that they were saying his receivers hate, or Carson Wentz's receivers hate him, and they're freezing him out by dropping the ball. But if you're dropping the ball, you're going to get cut, not the quarterback. So I don't know what they're trying to accomplish by that, if they are actually trying to freeze him out. Sanders, though, had a pretty bad day. I mean, he had 10 carries for 38 yards, 2 catches for 9 yards. It was his time to shine, and he didn't. Jordan Howard's going to come back, and then they're going to get Jay Ajayi involved as well. So this backfield is a no-go zone going forward until we figure out the rotation. They do get Seattle next week, so we might not know for 2 weeks. But next week, I would sit all three of these guys. I wouldn't even play them as a desperation. I would find somebody else. Ertz had a really good day, 9 catches, 94 yards. And then Goddard, 3 catches for 36 yards and a touchdown. Goddard's going to be a tight end 2. Ertz is going to be a tight end number 1. All right, guys, so the Sunday Night Football game, I thought I was going to be a little bit longer, but that game is still going, so we're not going to be able to break that down tonight on the podcast. So let's just get into the waiver wire ads. Quarterback-wise, I would like Carr, Mayfield, and Brissett. They all have plus matchups next week. You also have 4 teams on a bye: Cardinals, Vikings, Chargers, and Chiefs. So those are going to be your teams on a bye. You're losing almost 4 quarterbacks. For sure 3, maybe 4. So those are going to be some good guys to play. Running back wise, Kyle Juszczyk, like I said before, he's kind of filling in for Kittle. Only if Kittle is out would I play him. And then the number 1 guy that's going to be added is going to be Jonathan Williams for Indianapolis. And then Bo Scarborough, I'd try to pick him up as well. Receiver wise, you have Will Fuller coming back from an injury. Devontae Parker is pretty much the only player for Miami right now, producing at least. Josh Reynolds. Now, this one is a bit odd. I did see him score a touchdown today, so you have Cooks out, and then out of nowhere, out of left field for a personal reason, Robert Woods sat out. We don't know why, but I would keep an eye on Josh Reynolds because if those 2 guys sit out again, Josh Reynolds is going to be a plug-and-play guy. And then Deebo Samuel, like I said, if Sanders sits again, Deebo Samuel, even in deeper leagues, Deebo Samuel is going to be a guy to own. And then tight end-wise, you have Fant. Hollister, who has a really good matchup. The team he's playing is terrible against tight ends. And then you have Dwelly and Griffin. So those are going to be my ads. That's going to do it for us for the podcast. So let's do our obligation and plug everything. Instagram, Slumpbuster Podcast. We have fire memes. The memes for the Thursday night game are absolutely killing it right now for us. So come for the memes, stay for the podcast. Give us a like on that. Follow us on that. Twitter, we have Slumpbuster Podcast, Slumpbuster FFB, where we Sunday morning we have lineup questions. We help you out with all that stuff Sunday mornings. We have the website, theslumpbuster.com, where we have articles, power rankings, player rankings for the week ahead. Then we also have our YouTube page, Slumpbuster Podcast, where we have our Get Your Popcorn, movie reviews of sports movies. Then we're on YouTube, Spotify, Google Play, and Apple, or iTunes, not Apple, where we would like for you to like, subscribe, listen, review, share, download, pimp us out to all your friends, do all that for us, help us grow. You guys are actually really helpful for us. You guys are giving us a lot of love on the YouTube page, on the Instagram page. So keep doing what you're doing. Help us grow. Give us feedback as well. We can only grow if you guys give us feedback. And then as always, make sure you're talking shit to your fantasy friends because that's what it's all about. My mom said she was going to whoop my ass today because we played each other. So if you're not talking shit to your fantasy football friends in your league, why are you playing fantasy? That's what it's all about. Talk shit. Let's have fun. Playoff push, here we come. I love y'all. See y'all later.